Hey, everybody. Welcome to View from the Top podcast, where we help growth-minded men who desire momentum in their business, their family, and their finances get through the valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. I'm so glad you're listening in with us today. My name is Wally, the integrator, and I've got Big A, the visionary, in the studio. Welcome.
I like that little title you added to us there today. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Getting fancy, man.
Hey, I did something crazy yesterday. I got up at 2:30 in the morning, met my brother at the airport, had a little business in Clearwater, Florida to take care of. Did our business, caught a late flight back. I got home last night. I was so tired I couldn't go to sleep. I was like, oh my gosh, what in the world am I doing? And so today, Wally, I had to hit another cup of caffeinated tea to give me the energy to work through it. But man, how you been? Things going good?
Yeah, man. Things are on the rise.
Yeah, I like it when it's on the rise. You know what? When we were in Florida yesterday, we walked into a coffee establishment. It will remain anonymous. And my brother was going to treat me to some tea, and I'll have to confess to you, I did get one of those Danishes. Like, I know I'm supposed to be being careful right now.
Oh, you owned it, so you're good this time. We'll give you a pass this one day.
Yeah. So I did. It was good too. They heated it up, and I'm telling you, man, it was good. But my brother went to pay, and he carries a little cash in his pocket, and he flips out a 20 and gives her, and she goes, "Oh, sorry, we don't take cash." He's like, what? I'm not going to repeat on air what my brother said, but he was pretty upset. Like, I was like, okay, man, just put your debit card in there and move on. Let's go. I don't know that it bothers me as much as it does him. I'm like, okay, this is what it is. Does that bother you?
I don't know why it feels like a little bit of a loss of control. I don't know why it feels that way. We went to... Sonia and I, we like state fairs. We've been to New York. We've been to Minneapolis, Minnesota State Fair, which is, both of those are really nice, pretty cool. And now that we're in Tennessee, we say, hey, let's go to the Tennessee State Fair. Well, first of all, the Tennessee State Fair is nothing like the New York and the Minnesota State Fair, but they're fun nonetheless. And we went, and I think we're in the Midway area anyway. And it was the same kind of thing. Was I took some cash and got there and went to buy some stuff, some food. And it's like, no, we don't take cash. We take them, just cashless only or card only. And actually the coffee shop that they just built at our church.
Yeah, same way.
Only takes card, don't take cash. I think it feels like a little bit of like, not nostalgia, but I don't know why. Control may be the wrong word, but you definitely have less options. I don't know why you feel like you have more control of cash. Maybe because you can feel the money. Versus a card, it just kind of feels, like it's...
It says for all public and private debts. I don't know. It still is, America. But are you the conspiracy theorist? They're tracking you. They know what you're buying. They're going to come take all your cash one day. Is that you?
It's funny. If I say no, then it's going to happen. I'm just kidding. No, so I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've been known to go down a few rabbit holes in some conversations. But no, I wouldn't say conspiracy. How about you?
Yeah. I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I think it's factual. I think one day it's not a conspiracy.
Check under Big A's mattress and see what he's got going on.
It's like one day. Well, it'll be useless. Like if they do away with it and they change the currency, then it's not going to matter anyway. But
that's actually a good point. Like if they're going cashless, then having it under a mattress won't be any good.
Doesn't matter. It'll be useless. You can set a fire. You can set a fire with it. So
let's get gold. You can get gold.
Gold. Yeah, they're not going to take that either. If it's not a debit card or credit card, they're not going to.
They used to trade in gold, then they traded in paper money.
Yeah, now it's going to be coffee beans and guns and bullets or something. I don't know what they're going to do next.
You're going to get all you're going to get all those theorists riled up. So
no, I know they'll be sending me hate mail or I agree with you mail, one or the other. I don't know what it is.
If you have a problem with this podcast today, please email. I'm just kidding. No, go ahead.
Don't give them my email. Give them something else. Speaking of emails, I got a really cool one. There's a guy in our community, Quentin Hefner. And Quentin is a great guy. I've known Quentin for a number of years and actually lives here in Tennessee. I didn't think about that until just a second, but he lives in Franklin, Tennessee. Great guy. He sent a question. He said, I got a question. I wish I would address this on air. He said, a lot of guys work tirelessly to build wealth and provide for their families. He said, they say that they do this for their family's sake. But we all know oftentimes wealth building is about ego fulfillment and performance-based self-esteem. How can small business owners and entrepreneurs distinguish between truly providing for their families versus amassing wealth for their own insecurities? Man, I thought, what a great question this is, and thought we would maybe open it up on the show today.
Nice. That's a great question. He worded it so well. Yeah.
Well, I thought about it. Part of it I liked, and then the other part I didn't. What I didn't like is I wish somebody had asked me this question 30 years ago. That's what I really wished. I was like, man, where in the world was Quentin Hafner 30 years ago? When I was a young guy, I really thought I had to impress people. And I thought by working hard and really grinding it out, I was proving something. But the truth is I just knew that I wanted a lot more of something. I didn't know what that was exactly at the time when I was young. The truth is, though, I had no boundaries. I didn't have anybody walking alongside me. I'd had zero accountability. I didn't have trusted advisors. I didn't have a mastermind. I didn't have a board of directors. I didn't have anybody that was walking along me saying, hey, pay attention to the reason that you're doing some of these things. And I'm probably telling more than I should, but it really in later years got me in trouble. Like I was a workaholic. I worked way more than I should, did a lot of damage to my family. And I wish somebody like Quentin Hafner had showed up in my life 30 years ago. And I just thought it would be amazing today for us to break this down. What about you, Wally? What's a personal motivator for you in building wealth?
Well, I think we have to first kind of define what wealth means. His question, he asks, he says that oftentimes wealth building is about ego and fulfillment and performance-based self-esteem. So is providing, like there's a lot of business owners out there listening to this episode today going, well, I'm building my business and, I'm making a living and able to save a little bit for retirement maybe, and maybe save for kids' education, but I'm not crushing it in terms of I'm adding $100,000 or plus or more, to my wealth fund, if you will. They're not just getting by and they're doing well, but they don't think of that as wealth. I wouldn't have thought of that as wealth, as raising a family and building a business and
you just equated it to dollars, right?
I did there. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Because I think often we do, and I think if you look up the definition of it, it says directly, an abundance. Wealth is an abundance of valuable possessions or money. But I do think it's important to identify, I think, the period of life that you're in and how you're going about it and what is wealth. Like that, when I read his question, that's what I think about. So building wealth and providing for our families, that's how he starts his question. A lot of guys work tirelessly to build wealth and provide for their families. So are they two separate things? Providing for your family and building wealth. I think of providing for our family, I think of short term. Right? This is what I need to, right? And then wealth, I think of longer term. But I mean, lately I've been challenged, some of the reading we've been doing, to think about wealth in terms of, again, you could call it a possession or money, but it's more in the line of value. And I've been challenged. I'm thinking about that a lot. I know we're going to talk more about that as we get into this, but when I was younger, I didn't really think about wealth. I wouldn't get up and go to work every day to amass wealth.
Yeah.
And
just pay the mortgage.
Or money. It wasn't about that. Right. Now, did I have ego? Did I have self-esteem? Did I have self-esteem issues sometimes because I overworked? Because it wasn't even about the wealth amassing. It was, the money amassing at that point in my life. It was more about what I think you said it earlier, is that a lot of times we can easily put our families at a disadvantage because, well, I'm just going to work some more, try to get ahead. And I definitely was in that mode when I was raising my family and starting the business and trying to provide. I wasn't really thinking about wealth until later.
I was going to say, how much later was that? Yeah. But obviously there's some consideration around it today and thoughts around it. When did that happen? Was that during building your company? Was that after you sold the company? Is that recently? When did the idea of building wealth, or like a legacy, maybe? But when did you notice that?
I didn't start thinking about wealth until I had like my first set of goals accomplished, right? So think about paying. We lived in a modest house, and so I thought about paid off my house, and then I had 3 daughters, so like I knew that I wanted to help them as long as I could get a head start in life with some type of education, whether it was college or trade school, and then I assumed they were going to get married, and I wanted to plan for that. So I started saving money aside for weddings. And I think once that happened, once I had accomplished like those things, not even the retirement money or freedom funds, when I didn't really start working on those until I actually sold my business. It wasn't until like I had accomplished those like provision type goals for my family that I started thinking about wealth in terms of money, like what that means. And I'll tell you, I've been a little frustrated, and I've been questioned by some of the guys in my ISI group and otherwise just about, what does that look like? Why? And up until recently, I hadn't really thought about wealth aside from money. And I've been starting to think about that lately. So that's kind of the journey that I'm on so far.
You said something a while ago, it's kind of tongue in cheek, but you said in this order, providing their education, the later they're going to get married. I just want to tell you guys right now, forget the education, start saving for the wedding, because you're going to need every dollar you can get to pay for that wedding. You and I could probably invest in a nice piece of real estate. We had 5 daughters between us if we could get those resources back. Now, I wouldn't.
College definitely cost me a lot more than weddings. I will tell you that.
Yeah. Those weddings are not cheap, though. I'll tell you. But anyway, well, let me ask you another question.
You got to set a budget, man.
I know, Mr. Budget. You're helping me work through that. So, well, is it okay though? Some of the guys say, is it okay just to build wealth for the sake of building wealth? I mean, does there have to be some noble underlying reason to just say, you know what, I want to build wealth? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think what Quentin's asking is, how can small business owners and entrepreneurs distinguish between truly providing for their families versus amassing wealth for their own insecurities?
I think what he sees is what I see a lot is guys say they're doing it for their family. Right. But the truth is, it's stroking their ego. They want to feel good about themselves, build their self-esteem. And so they're out there. Like, I'm not calling anybody a liar.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'm guilty of it myself and have been. But we're using our family as the reason we're so noble that we're out working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're doing it for our families. And I just contend that we've got a lot of relationship cost if that's what you're doing. And I tell stories all the time about I came home with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers. And I did provide well. I mean, we had a vacation home. We had a beautiful home here and nice cars. And Robin came up to me one day and said, hey, listen, thank you so much for providing for our family. Like, it doesn't go unnoticed. I'm very grateful. But I don't want to be a single parent. And man, it rocked me to the core. When she said that, it was like, wow, and I threw it up to her. I did. We had a terrible argument. I mean, I remember arguing about this, and I'm like, well, you just don't appreciate all that I'm doing and how hard I'm working, and we're building this business, and they wouldn't be able to do this, and you wouldn't be able to do this, and you're getting to stay home, and and boy, it was terrible. I mean, some of the things that I said in regards to that, and she looked at me just softly, like she always does, and she said, none of that means anything if you're not here. And I'm like, okay, what do I say about that? It was like, okay. And I had to reevaluate and I had to reorient my focus. And I think oftentimes guys that are listening to this podcast right now, ask yourself honestly this question that Quentin is asking. What is your motivation, and is your family in alignment with doing this? I think these are some of the questions.
Okay, I want to interject something here that I think. Yeah. So when you think about the motivation side of things, I never had a dad or a guardian or a guy that I looked up to. Both of my dads were blue collar workers, earned average wages for blue collar work, and did fine. They did fine, but I never felt like I had to prove anything to them. It never made me feel that way. But I talk to enough guys and I observe enough guys where their dads, especially, call them father wounds, whatever you want to call them, a lot of that pressure to perform can come from a dad. It can come from a situation that they found themselves in growing up where they weren't enough. And so the only way that you can go work a lot, right? You can put a lot of hours in. That's one thing, and that caused me some challenges in my marriage and my family. But my motivation wasn't to amass money. Let's call them wealth and money. It's just for the sake of Quentin's question, I think let's call them the same. So wealth is going to be money or possessions for our purposes so far, unless we change it later. But that's what we're talking about right now. So if that's the motivation, because a lot of times you're trying to prove something, because that's a hard fact. Like that's a number, right? It's more. It's I forget who I was talking to a couple weeks ago, and it was along these lines of like, I felt in this situation with his father-in-law. In this situation, like his father-in-law has done really well in life, very successful, like worldly, good guy, nice guy, believer, but just he's done, like from the outside looks like he's been very successful, and he is, and he's well off. And so his son-in-law, right? The father-in-law is always kind of like, and I don't think he's doing it on purpose. Like he knows he's doing it. This guy doesn't feel like that, but he feels this pressure to like, it's like, well, I made, $250 this year, or I made $500 this year, or I made $750 this year. And that striving for that number, that wealth, whether it's provision or whether it's Quentin's question is, I'm going to build this huge amount of money. You have a story about that, but about someone just compiling a ton of money because there's either some security in that, or there's some point they're trying to prove, whatever it is. And that, I think the motivation behind that needs some work. I don't think that's a healthy motivation for amassing wealth at the expense of our families.
Talking about some of the things that you want, some of the things that you need, we really need to think through what the difference is. Like, what are the things that we need? What are the things that we want? And we talk a lot about a document that we've provided, What Do I Want? And it'll be in the show notes, and you can get a copy of it. We're happy to supply that to you. But a lot of people are working out of a needs-based mentality, right? I was raised that way myself. I was raised that way. Somebody asked me, was your dad a white collar or blue collar? I said, my dad was a no collar. He didn't wear a shirt. He framed houses. Like he didn't even wear a collar. I don't know what's under a blue collar, but maybe it's a no shirt. That's what my dad did. And I was like, man, I want more than that though. I want to accomplish something. And when you said that you didn't really ever feel the pressure from your dad, I didn't feel the pressure from my dad I applied the pressure myself because I wanted my dad to say, I'm proud of you, which he never said, right? I feel like he was, but he never said it.
Yeah.
And I worked until he died to get my dad to say, man, I am so proud of you. Look what you've accomplished. He would compliment about me to everybody else. Like he would say it, but he wouldn't say it to me. I don't know why he wouldn't say it to me. And I know there's a lot of guys out there right now that are struggling with that. Man, don't stay in bondage trying to get someone else to do something, right? Do the right thing for the right reason. So the needs thing comes up a lot. It's like, man, why do you want to do that? You don't need that. I got a buddy of mine that built a big house, and codes inspector walked in and said, man, you got 6 fireplaces in this house. Do you need that many fireplaces? He said, I don't need 1 fireplace. I want 6 though. And the guy just looked at him like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But see, we're raised, a lot of people, not everybody is raised with just providing for your needs. And when I was thinking through this, when we were talking, Wally, I'll just expose both of us here real quick. Like, I've got a really cool Ranger bass boat. I mean, it's nice. It is. You've been in it. You know, nice. You fished it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's nice. Well, you also have a really cool, fast Mustang convertible. By the way, police are going to be sitting at the end of my street one day when you come up here to visit. I just want to tell you, they sit down there in that driveway. But anyway, do we need that? I mean, do we need those things? Is it okay for us to have those things? Should we just be focused on needs, or is it okay to have these things? Man, how do you wrestle with that? Like, we take vacations, you know, and I don't know. How do you look at that?
Yeah, I grew up in the same type of mindset of, you know, do you need this? Do you need that?
Do you have to justify it? I mean, is it necessary to justify? Yeah. How am I going to justify the other boat?
Well, because we had to. I'm just being honest, right? I mean, you had when you don't have any excess is the wrong word. What's the fancy use word for people who have what type of income?
Excess?
No, it's not excess. There's a word for it. I can't think of it.
Discretionary.
Discretionary. There it is. Yeah. When there's not a lot of discretionary funds laying around, right, you have to be very intentional about what you need and justify it. There's no question about that. At the same time, I think we've seen a movement lately, even in some of my daughters, I've seen this with their son-in-laws. And I'm not saying that they don't desire to have things and to have more than just enough. But I've seen there's a shift. I don't know if it's just generationally or what it is. And I see in other young people where my generation, it was like work like a dog, right, to get ahead. Because I needed to do that. That's what you had to do. And there's a shift in the mind between need and want. Well, what if I wanted to live simpler? Often we never consider that even as an option. We're just always trying to get more, which can lead to that amassing, wealth mindset that has a wrong motivation. But, we've been reading this book lately, 10X is better than 2X. And I don't agree with everything in it, but there's definitely some principles in there that I think are really cool. One of them is they talk about, we're going to change the definition of wealth for a second. When you think of wealth, we always think of money. And that's not wrong. But let's just think of the definition for a moment with wealth and value. And I like that. I like that a lot, to think of like wealth is essentially value, value is essentially wealth, and money and time and what's another one? Are tools to help us understand what's valuable to us. And so, can we live in a mindset? I'm not talking about a fake thinking you have more than you have type mindset. That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, though, is it possible to have the mindset of what I want, what I value, that is not the same thing as what I need, and that I can pursue what I want, but my definition of wealth or value by itself, those words are subjective. Is that right? That's the right word? Where there's not a what's wealth, what's value for everybody in the world. It's not like it's a 1 is a 1 and a 10 is a 10. How I define wealth and value is going to be different than how you do that. And if we do that for ourselves, if that's our mindset with our families and with our businesses and the way that we think about money as a tool and think about time as a tool, I think it really helps us get a proper motivation in place for what you're called to. I'm a Christ follower, a Bible believer, so you are too. And so we look through that lens to be like, what is we make our plans and God directs our steps. So what is he going to do with that? And how does he want me to live? Like, what's his design, his plan for me and my family? And it's going to be a little different and maybe vastly different than yours. And I'm not here to judge you. You're not here to judge me, whether you have a boat or a car or a bicycle or, whatever. Pool, no pool. I mean, whatever it is, right? Yeah. So I'm just starting to like go down this journey of this mindset of what is wealth and value to me? And my wife now, especially we're in empty nesting years, so it looks a little different. And what is that? And I just feel like I'm starting to get the tip of clarity on that. And so I'm kind of getting in that mindset of like, okay, I'm working on amassing wealth and value in my life going forward. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's directly tied to money.
We were, when my dad was alive, he died in 2006. And there's a guy that lives in Hendersonville. His name's Steve Peak. And Steve had a 22-acre lake behind his house called Peak's Lake. That's a good name for that lake. But anyway, Steve Peak, Peak's Lake. And every Saturday morning, Dad and I would stop at Hardee's and we would get a biscuit and we'd drive up to Peak's Lake and we'd fish every Saturday. And we would do that for probably, 3 or 4 hours early Saturday morning. Dad used to get upset when Steve was out there fishing. I was like, Dad, this is his lake. Like, what are you? I don't know. Why does he have to come out here on Saturday? But anyway, we were out there. I'll never forget it. We were in a little flat bottom John boat and we were fishing out there. And I said, Dad, can I ask you some personal questions? And he goes, yeah, sure. What? And I said, what do you think about the way you've lived your life? He said, what do you mean? I said, well, you ever think about, what would it have been like to be wealthy? And he goes, I am wealthy. And I looked at him and I said, well, you haven't made much money. He said, that's not what I said. He said, I'm wealthy. And I said, how do you define that? And he said, we come out here every Saturday and fish, don't we? And I said, yeah. He said, you just got to know what to want. And I was like, wow. And see, my dad exercised this principle because he knew what to want. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved my dad. He was an honorable, credible man. He just didn't place high value on possessions. He placed a lot more emphasis on his time freedom. And so he considered himself wealthy. Many of you are out there today. Don't think any less of yourself if you're not financially wealthy. Maybe you have the right perspective in knowing exactly what to want. So kudos to you if that's your mindset. I was thinking about some of the excuses that I hear for guys to go along with Quentin's question of why we work such ridiculous hours. And we've heard them all, guys say, well, hey, I need the money. Bottom line, that's number one. You'll hear that more than anything. It's like, I just need the money. And so I'm going to work. The other thing is job security. Guys are talking about, well, if I show up and I work really hard, work at this corporate gig, or if I've got my own business, if I just work more, it's job security for me. Some people say, especially in the corporate environment, that it helps me to advance in my career. It's like, yeah, if I put in the hours, and I want to warn you that oftentimes they don't have the same values that you do. And so you need to think through the things that are really important. Is it just the bottom line for the corporation? Is it the things that are important to you? You can advance your career, but at what expense, at what cost? Some people say it's the culture. Other cultures and other companies, and we've got friends that own different businesses that they don't work on Fridays, right? They take every Friday off. The culture of Chick-fil-A, they're not open on Sunday, right? There's other friends that we have that they buy the meals for everybody that's there. There's different cultures. And if the culture of the company you're in is toxic, you need to really think through being in that culture. Think, is it the right thing to get you to the vision that you've set out for your family?
And
some
Big
people
A,
say
on that point though, like we're talking to business owners today mostly. So as we're thinking about that, a lot of times as the owner, as the one making the decisions at the end of the day, you have the red button. You set the tone for the culture.
Sure.
Right. It's not that the culture is all created by you. I think the culture's started by you. There's a founder's mentality that you have that helps direct the culture, but the culture is, decided and figured out over time. But you definitely sit at the head of that. So just like you do in your family, right? You have some leadership responsibilities in your family, have leadership responsibilities at work, and you're going to set the tone for what you think is important.
I'm glad you brought that up because a year and a half ago when I took that 2-month sabbatical, if you'll remember, and you do because we've talked about it, I came back off that sabbatical and I said, one of the main things that I want us to do here is to have fun. Mm-hmm. Like if we're not going to have fun, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have View from the Top. I don't want to have Iron Sharpens Iron Mastermind. I don't want to do those things. If it's just a grind, I'm going through, can't wait for the weekend to get here. Can't wait till it's over. Can't wait till I can retire and sell it. Can't wait. If I've got that mindset, I'm going to find something else to do. And I would encourage everyone listening to this episode today, if that's your mindset, you've got to reevaluate. You've got to think, because life is short. The brevity is unbelievably short. And I just want to tell you that you need to enjoy life. And we don't enjoy every single thing. I don't enjoy every single thing I'm doing here now all the time. Right? There's things that we've got to go through. There's difficulties. I'm not saying life's a party and we're just going to go out here and have a blast every single day. But overall, we've got to enjoy what we do. So I just want you to think through that. There's so many other things about being passionate about it. I hear guys say that all the time. Well, Big A, I'm just passionate about it. I'm just a workaholic and I'm committed to what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, you got to look behind you because there's a wake back there and there's a lot of kids and spouses and peers and colleagues in the wake of your being so passionate and committed. Heard a guy one time said, I don't want to miss work because I don't want to miss out. Like I don't want to miss a thing. I got FOMO. Like I got to be there all the time. It doesn't matter. And then you feel that peer pressure. And the big one, I think, for a lot of guys today is the self-worth. They really find their identity in what they do. Man, I've had to work through that myself. Floyd Dawson, Anthony Witt, those guys have really helped me work through not finding my identity in what I do, right? Our 5th core value is truth before opinion. And that's finding our identity. For me, is finding my identity in Christ. And so that's what I want to do. That's truth for me. And so not finding my identity in being the founder of View from the Top, but finding my identity in something that's a greater, higher power than myself. And so a lot of people go through that. Anything else, Wally, you can think of, or some of the excuses that people use to build wealth?
Just thinking back to Quentin's question and how he worded it, because I'm a words guy. It's just worded so well. Coming back to that, we do it for our family's sake. That's an excuse that we use. And our families are important, right? But I think you've made the point already that if we're providing for our families is one thing, amassing wealth and using, that we're providing for our families as a crutch, I'd say the motivation is way off on that.
That's true.
100%. I think, you got to really dig in. And like we talked about already, I think there's something else driving that for you. And even with this question, it may not be ego, may not be directly self-esteem. It could be those things. Maybe that's what it's turned into for you. But there's something underlying there that if you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh man, I got to go put money in the bank account today. Not because you need to pay your bills, but you got to go like get in there and grow. I remember I sold my business, and it was very successful exit, and I'm very blessed. And I remember sitting in a mastermind. It was an ISI mastermind group, but it was like a next level type thing where we had a few guys that met specifically for something. And I was sitting there with a guy, and I was going through this scorecard thing that we do. And the scorecard is like we kind of rate where we're at and the 5 pillars, personally, and which is weight and mental wellness and relational and obviously marriage and family and our community around us and spiritual, and then professional and financial. And I got to the finance. We rate all those and give ourselves a score, and then we kind of talk over those and get questions. And that's a real helpful tool. It adds a lot of context. But we get to the end of that, and we're looking at the financial part. And I have this goal, this financial goal. And I remember saying it. I remember Rich looking right at me through the screen and like, well, is that enough? I'm like, well, what do you mean is that enough? He goes, well, why isn't it this? Or why isn't it that? And I'm like, I don't know. And it was elusive. The why, because I thought I needed it. For what? I don't know. Because I hadn't decided what I wanted it for. At the end of the day, that's really what it was. And that's been a journey, as it is for everybody, but it's been a journey for me along the way.
There's things that all of us can do to kind of do an introspection. We can do kind of a deep dive into what our true desires are. You got to be honest with yourself, though. See, that's the thing. And I use this in coaching calls all the time. I'll say, what is it that you really know that you're lying to yourself about? And it catches people off guard. And you start talking through things, and I go, do you really believe that? No, I don't. I don't believe it. It just makes me feel better when I say it. So you can't do that. That's not an introspection. You've got to really say, even if it's wrong, right? The perception is reality to you at the time, and say what it is and be honest with yourself. I think that we really need to think through our personal values, and we even need to prioritize those. And if you haven't got written core values, I suggest strongly that you write those down. We use our core values. There's 5 of them. We use them for every decision we make. When we're making a decision about our business, we run those questions through those core values. And if we can't answer yes, we've got to modify the question. We've got to eliminate it. We've got to make that align with those core values. I'll give you an example. Years ago, we would give birthday cards out to everybody in ISI. We would send them a birthday card. Well, we had a service that did it. I had an assistant that sent them the birthdays for the month, and they would print the cards. And I thought they were pretty cool. They would grab pictures off of their Facebook and put it in the card. It was a customized card. And I don't know, they were $5 or $7 or whatever they were for each person. And they would mail them to them. They'd get them on their birthday. And one of the guys called me. And when I saw his name on my phone, I thought, well, yeah, he's going to call and thank me for his birthday card. And so I got on the phone. I said, yeah, hey, how's it going? He said, good. He goes, Big A, I want to talk to you. And I said, yeah, sure. He said, I want to talk to you about this birthday card. And I was all kind of puffed up. I was like, here we go. He said, I know your core values, and your second core value or third core value, you said, is make it amazing. And I said, yeah. And I was really pumped up now. I was like, hey, here we go. He goes, this is not amazing. And I just sat there and I was waiting on the punchline. Well, there wasn't one.
That was it.
I said, excuse me? He goes, this is not amazing. And it pissed me off. I'm just being honest. Can I say pissed? I guess I can say it. It's our podcast. It pissed me off. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, I know, first of all, that you didn't even know you sent it. He said, an assistant sent it, and you've got a service that sends it, and it's not amazing. He said, and on top of that, it was 3 days late. Well, that really aggravated me. I was like, oh my gosh. I wanted to go, who else sent you a birthday card? But I didn't. I was very polite. I didn't say anything. And I said,
deflection.
I'm being real. And so I went to the team and I spewed off. I said, let me tell you what this guy did. And I said, the truth, it's not amazing. So we do cards now differently, similar in nature, but the thing that makes it amazing is I sit down at my desk every month and I write a personal handwritten note to every one of those guys, telling them how much they mean to me, how thankful I am for them. And I get call after call, email after email, text message after text message from guys that say, man, I shared this with my wife, told her how much it meant to me. You took the time to write that personal note. See, it was amazing. And so it wouldn't have been had we not had core values that were in writing that we run every decision through. See, our awareness was heightened that it didn't align to our values. And that's why I'm so grateful for guys in our community, because they want us to be amazing. They want us to grow. So I'd encourage you not only do your core values, not only prioritize those, but I would encourage you to think of ways that you can incorporate those into your business to make your business amazing.
Yeah, that's good, Big A. As we finish up this episode today, we're so thankful for Quentin's question. It's created some really good conversations here, and I really hope it creates some great conversations with you guys that are listening, whether it's with your bride, with your wife, or whether it's with your team members there, just how you show up for your family, and you're working hard, but as you think about what's your motivation for more, right? Amassing wealth, if you want to call it that. I think there's a few practical tips that we can walk away with. We've kind of summarizing from what we've talked about on the podcast. And Big A, you just talked about goals, a little bit about goals, but around vision and around values. I think that's really good. What are some other ways that some things we can take away of, hey, how do we protect ourselves? If we have guardrails through our values and our vision, how else can we kind of protect ourselves to make sure our motivation is on the right track?
Yeah, I think always what's helpful to me is really having people around me. I'm a relational guy, so I love people around me. I love to think out loud. For me, it's always having a mentor, somebody that can really pour into me, having either peer advisory group, board of directors, somebody that you can bounce ideas off of and say, hey, this is the way I'm thinking. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it on point? And then having some regular check-ins, maybe have people that you really trust that you can go to and say, hey, I'm struggling with this in the past. I'd like to revisit this. Of course, I feel like I keep Anthony Witt and Floyd Dawson on retainer, because I'm always calling them because these guys are counselors. And it's like, hey, I want to be sharp and I don't want to miss something. And I want to be honest to myself and my family. And this is what I'm thinking. Do you see that being in alignment? And really putting yourself out there, being vulnerable around a small group of people that can just walk with you through that. Here's the truth. We can eliminate the vast majority of the problematic areas in our life if we'll bounce ideas off people. If we'll just go and say, this sounds good in my head based on the filters that I've got in my life experiences. Does that align? Does that look good to you? And it's just been so helpful to me over the past 2+ decades to be able to have people in my corner like that. Yeah. And so, just think about that as you kind of align your head around the reasons that you're doing some of the things that you're doing.
Yeah, I mentioned one more thing that, I forget who said it last week to me. They were just talking about how important it is if you, starting with your family, talked about, getting some guys around you. That's great. Even just going to your wife and your family, especially your kids, if they're older, they're starting to get, they're understanding things more and they see what's going on. And just asking them, what's important to you, right? In our family, what's important to you? And I think your wife would probably, if you don't catch her at a time where she's in the middle of making dinner or middle of her work day, or she's focused on something else, but get some time that you can get her away and you guys can talk about things and really dive in and be able to ask, hey, what's important to you? Find out. And that might be enough to just help change the trajectory if you've got the wrong motivation and wrong mindset.
Yeah. Go out there today, guys. You do these things. I promise you, you'll have that view from the top that you're searching for.
Hey guys, as we finish up today, just like Quentin had a question, man, we would be so honored if you guys have a question you'd like us to take on. So just go ahead and email to us. Email to us at pod, that's POD, @viewfromthetop.com. And we would love to hear from you and take on your question. We'll see you next time.